Welcome, dear students. Welcome to the business law subject. So in this video, we are going to learn about the contract of pledge. I am Dr. Indraini Katti. So let's deal with the meaning part of this contract of pledge. It is also called as pawn. So as per or according to section 172 of the Indian Contract Act 1872, bailment. The pledge means pledge is defined as bailment of goods as a security for payment of debt or performance of a promise. So it itself is called as pledge. It means what? What is done here is the goods are delivered to avail the loan from the bank. So that is why bailment of goods. Bailment of goods is nothing but the delivery of goods from one person to another person. So here why the goods are delivered is to avail the loan. So the goods are kept as a security for the payment of debt, to avail the debt amount from the bank, something is to be kept as security. So this is what is, we are keeping some goods, movable goods as a security to avail the loan or to get the loan for making repayment of the debt. We need to get back the goods from the banker, right? So this is what is the meaning of pledge. Pledge is, once again, bailment of goods as a security for payment of debt or performance of a promise, right? So for payment of a debt or to perform the promise, we can transfer or we can deliver the goods as a security with the pledgee. Okay, so here arises, there are two parties. One party is called as a bailer, right? Bailer is called as pledger. Okay, the one who transfers the goods, the one who transfers the goods from the other person, right? So that's why there are two parties in this pledge. One is pledger, or he is also called as a pawner, and another person is called as a bailee or a pledgee or a pawnee, right? So there are two parties, pledger and pledgee, you can say, pawner and pawnee, you can say, or bailer and bailee. Okay, so here is an example. A borrows rupees 25,000 B, 25,000 from B, and keeps gold ornaments as security. So this keeping gold ornaments itself is called as pledge. So these gold ornaments are kept as security to avail rupees 25,000 as loan. To borrow that 25,000, gold is transferred from Mr. A to Mr. D. So A is called as a pledger. That's why A becomes a pledger and B becomes pledgee, right? So any movable property can be pledged. Even a savings passbook also can be kept as a security to avail the loan, right? So there are two parties. One is a pledger, another one is called as a pledgee, and the person delivering the security is called as pledger. The person to whom such security is delivered is called as pledgee. Okay, so in simple, we can learn that there are two parties, pledger and pledgee. The meaning of that also you have learned. Coming to the next part, that is rights of a pledger and pledgee, the pawner, right? So what are the rights which are availed by a pledger? So what are those are? So first one, the right to get back the pledged goods and accretion. When the goods are kept with the pledgee, when the goods are kept as a security with the pledgee, so we in the sense, the pledger has a right to get back these things, right? If any accretion is there, that can also be taken. So here some movable goods can be kept. Okay, so if any accretion takes place in addition to the original good, in addition to that, if anything is added, so that can also, we have a right to take back that amount also. So next one is right to redeem. See, if default made in fulfillment of a promise, but any time before the sale of a goods pledged by pawnee or pawner, the pawner can redeem the goods pledged and as make payment of interest and expenses, if any. Okay, so here right to redeem is if default made in fulfillment of a promise, if we fail to make the payment, right, at that time, but any time before the sale of the goods pledged by pawnee. Okay, so what is this is Pawner, Pawnee are there. That is Pledger and Pledgee are there. Pledgee is, suppose we can take an example. Pledgee is a bank. Okay. Here is Mr. Pledger is, what do you know? Borrower. Okay. So he is called as Pledger. And this bank is called as Pledgee. In case of default made by a pledger to make the payment of the loan, whatever repayment of loan is to be done to the bank. If he fails to make good that or repay, if he fails to repay the loan amount to the bank, at that time, banker has a right to sell it. Okay. So banker has a right to sell it. So whatever the amount you need to pay, if you make the payment of that, you have a right to get back that or redeem that also, right? So this is what right to redeem. Then next one is right to receive notice, right? So pledger has a right to receive the notice. What kind of notice? Who is going to give this? Pledger has a right to receive notice is before the sale of the products, that is which are pledged with the banker. So this pledger has a right to receive that intimation should have to be given by a pledgee to pledger that your goods are going to be sold. So that's why he has a right to receive to make good the loss or make good that repayment of loan is to be done in time. Okay. So elaine marbekagate. ಅವನು ರೀಪೇಮೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕಾಗತ್ತೆ. ಈ ಫೇಲ್ ಆಗಿದ್ದಾನೆ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಇವನ್ ನೋಟಿಸ್ಗೆ ಬರ್ದಂಗೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಬರೋದಿಲ್ಲ. Pledgee doesn't have a right to do anything. Okay, so that's why here the pledger has a right to receive the notice. Next one is right to accruals, right? So right to accruals, he has a right to accruals also. What is this right to accrual? Yeah, right to have the accretion along with the goods is another one. Now, right to accruals, if anything which is to be paid by him, he has a right for that also, right? So what all the accruals are there, which are the due, receivables are there. So all the receivables he needs to get back. That's why he has got pledger, has got a right to accruals also. Let's move on to the next slide that deals with rights of pledgee or Pawnee. So what are these? He has also right. So here the same kind of rights are availed by a pledger as well as pledgee. The same examples, that is we have learned in the earlier video that bailment. So there bailer and bailee are there. So whatever the rights and duties of a bailer are there, the same things arise here also. But only the thing is this pledge is connected with the loan amount or a debt amount. So this is a contract of debt connected with this debt. Okay, so here right of pledgee or Pawnee, what are the rights he has got? The first one is right of pledgee is right to retain. So what is this retain? Retain is right to retain the goods which are pledged with the pledgee. Okay, so bank is a pledgee, usually financial institution, the one who has given the loan, the one who has provided funds, right? So that person is called as a banker, is called as a pledgee here. Okay, so it is banker is a pledgee. He has a right to retain when the loan amount is not made good by the pledger. At that time banker has a right to retain the property or the goods which are kept as a security with him. So this right is called as lien. So the same right is called as right of lien, lien it is called as. Okay, so this right of lien is of a banker or a Pawnee. Okay, or we can say the same Pawnee as what we can say is pledgee. Okay, next one, right to extraordinary expenses. So what happens here is right to extraordinary expenses. Here, you know, with the normal expenditure, if anything which is spent by the pledgee, he has a right to take back that extraordinary expenses also from the pledger. Say, for example, here is the best case studies there, say, for example, Miss Mary is there. She has got gold ornaments with her, right? And what she does is she has pledged with a person called Mr. P and availed a loan from him. So Mr. P doesn't have any safe lockers. So what he does is whatever the ornaments are given by Miss Mary as a security, those are all kept in the safe locker, right? Safe locker. He has availed the facility which is provided by the banker, and he has kept all gold ornaments in the safe locker, right? And the expenses which incur to avail the facility of safe locker from the bank is an extraordinary, because the things which are given by the pledger as a security should have to be kept safely, right? So that's why this is an additional expenditure to Mr. P, that he bears the safe locker facilities and all. He has to bear that expenditure. The same expenses he has a right to collect it from the pledger also. Okay, so that's why right to extraordinary expenses is a right of a pledgee, right? So next one, third one is right against pawner for default. In case of a default of a payment, pledgee can retain the goods, right? File a case or even sell the goods. Three opportunities are there with the pledgee. So what a pledgee can do is, pledgee can do, okay, pledgee can retain with himself, okay, or pledgee can go to the court of law and file a case. Okay. Second one, suit is filed. And third one is he has a right, after giving proper notice to the pledger, he has a right to sell the property also to recover the loan amount. Is that clear? So three options are lying with, three options are there for pledgee to get back his money. He can retain the property or the goods which are pledged, or he can file a suit in the court of law to get back his money and give it back to the pledger, or else he can even sell the property or the goods which are kept as a security in case of default made by the owner or the pledger, right? So these are the three rights availed by or provided to a pledgee. Okay. Next one, disclosure of facts, duties of a pledger we are dealing with. Pledgee's rights as well as pledger's rights we have dealt with. Now the part is duties of a pledger. What are the duties of a pledger? Okay. So now while dealing with the pledger's duties, pledger is the one who has delivered his goods to pledgee as a security and availed the loan. Okay. While giving his goods as a security, he has to disclose the facts, material facts, and the risk involved in the goods, whatever he is giving, movable goods he is giving as a security, what are the material faults? He has to disclose it, right? What are the material facts? If any risk is there, he has to carefully disclose it to the pledgee. Then he can avail the things. If he fails to do, and due to which if any loss is occurred to pledgee, then that loss is to be made good by pledger only. Okay, that is why it is his duty to disclose the material facts, the risk involved in getting that product or good as a security. Okay. Second one is to pay for extraordinary expenses incurred for preservation of the goods, So he has kept as a security and availed the loan, and to preserve that, to keep it as keep it in the safe locker, maybe there, or anything which is given over there, to preserve that, he has spent certain sum of money. So that amount is called as extraordinary expenses. So that extraordinary expenses can also be taken back. That is, he has to pay, pledger has to pay to the pledgee. This is what is extraordinary expenses. Okay. Next, third one is if pledger is liable for any loss caused to pledgee due to any defect in pledger's title. So at that time, he has to make the loss. So if anything which happens over here, first one is there, no? Disclose of facts, that if he fails to disclose the facts which are there, the risk which is involved over there, if he fails to disclose this, at that time, he has to make the loss. And the fourth one is pledger has to make good any shortfall where pledgee has exercised his right of sale of goods, right? So pledger has a right. He has a duty, pledger has a duty to make good any shortfall, anything where pledgee has exercised his right of sale of goods. So at that time, he has to make good this short bit or shortfall. Okay. So these are all connected with the duties of a pledger. Let's go with the duties of pledgee. Next, we are dealing with the pledgee. The banker may be there. The person who has given the loan may be there, right? Who has kept the goods as a security with himself may be there. So he is called as a pledgee or a pawnee. So what are the duties of a pledgee? So as usual, what we can tell is the same things what we have learned in the bailment, right? So here, duty to take reasonable care of the goods pledged. It is foremost important duty, If pledgee fails to take reasonable care of the goods pledged, then if anything happens to that, so he has to make good the loss. That's why he has to exercise a proper reasonable care with the products or goods which are kept as a security. Okay. Next, second one, duty not to mix or not to make unauthorized use of the goods. So whatever the goods are there, those cannot be unauthorizedly used by pledgee, right? So gold ornaments are kept as a security with the banker. Bank manager cannot take all the gold ornaments for his personal use. That is unauthorized use of the goods, which are pledged as a security with them, right? So that's why it is also duty to look at that and authorization is there. So as per the procedure only, they can make use of that. Without going or beyond that procedure, they are not supposed to do anything. That's why they are not in a position to make unauthorized use of goods. All right. So next one is, third one is not to mix, duty not to mix the goods pledged with his own. So this is there in the bailment also, right? So here he is not supposed to mix the goods kept as a security with his own goods. So he has to keep it separately, preserve it separately, right? So next, fourth one is to return goods pledged on receipt of his dues and other reasonable expenses. If anything extraordinary expenses are spent by him at that time, that is to be also given. So here pledgee has to return back the goods pledged with him as a security after the collection of the dues or after the collection of the loan amount as well as other reasonable expenses. So last one is duty to deliver accretion to the goods. So accretion to the goods is if in addition to that goods, if anything takes place over there, increases the value of that, or what is an additional thing is there along with the original product, original good, then that is also is to be returned along with the original good. So additional good is to be returned back to the pledger, right? If any cow is kept over there as a security and avail the loan, Mr. A has a cow and who has given the cow to Mr. B and availed loan of rupees 20,000. Okay. And the period is 1 year. For 1 year, he has taken it. So maximum period is 1 year. Okay. So meanwhile, what happens is cow has got one more baby cow, that is calf. So this calf is additional thing. Calf is an additional product or additional good to cow. So both the things are to be written back. B has to return cow as well as calf to Mr. A after getting back all the amount with the interest, whatever the terms of agreement are there. So as per the terms of agreement, what he has to get back, after getting it back, B has to return the cow as well as calf, right? So these are the duties of pledgee. Let's come to the next part. So here we have dealt with the pledgee's duties, pledger's duties, and rights of a pledger as well as rights of a pledgee. Both the things we have discussed, and what is meaning, how many parties are there. So what about the contract of pledge? As per section 172 of Contract Act, the Indian Contract Act, what is the meaning of the pledge also we have learned. So here I conclude the pledge contract. What is this? How many parties are there? And how about the rights and duties of both the parties? So here I will conclude the discussion of pledge. Okay. So we are dealing with stop share, and I will conclude this.